it's really been quite profound for me to experience the loss of Thich Nhat Hanh. I was going to, reading from Living by Vow, I had planned to talk about chapter 5, the meal chants. And so I think that it would be a good place to start. And then I'd like to pivot to Nhat Hanh's teachings. I'll just say that I met him first in 1975 when he had just come from Vietnam, out of the war, and was in exile, living in Paris. And my husband at the time and I had just come. We had been Zen students and traveled to see him, and were able to stay at his house, at his apartment in Paris. And it was really revolutionary because, we had come out of a practice that was all about getting enlightenment and this Kensho experience. And as you know, it was a very intense practice. And so to go to talk to him, and he was from the war so imbued with the feelings of nonviolence and had really created practice, to hear that for him, practice was drinking a cup of tea and taking a mindful walk to the park was so revolutionary. And that nonviolence and love and gentleness were paramount for oneself, for one's practice and one's relationships in all aspects of life. And, you'd never actually often get to the park when you're walking with him because you'd walk so slowly that you'd only get a couple of blocks and have to turn around and come back. And tying this together with Akamura is that I'm going to read a piece of from this chapter 5 on Tenzo Kyoken. And I just like to say that I think that we're all Tenzos. So take this as in that light. Dogen Zenji describes the attitude we should maintain toward food, fire, water, and utensils when we cook. When steaming rice, regard the pot as your own head. When washing rice, know that the water is your own life. Everything is part of our life. As Tenzo, we should think about the people who eat, who receive the food, and who practice. According to Dogen Zenji, practice itself is enlightenment. So people who practice are enlightened, and therefore, as Tenzo, we prepare meals to offer to the Buddha. Through work with the food in the kitchen, the Tenzo's energy becomes part of the Buddha. So the Tenzo should be sincere and careful. This is an important point. Since the Tenzo doesn't sit in the Zendo all the time, the kitchen is the Tenzo's place of practice. When the Tenzo cooks, the food is the Buddha, and the cooking is the Tenzo's Zazen. We should receive the food gratefully and with the same attitude with which it was cooked. That's the meaning of this ritual. And, I find this so beautiful. And it reminds me of when we were hearing we gave a talk about from the Hidden Lamp, about a woman who wanted to, in ancient China, who wanted to become a nun, but wasn't able to due to her circumstances. And in the commentary, it said, there's a group of practice people in that time who did not become monastics, did not fully, were not able to give themselves in that way to the Dharma, but practiced so wholeheartedly in their homes and in their situations. And they were called Daoren, which is like the Tao, the way, people of the way. And I believe that this is what we are as American practitioners, because here we are preparing food for our families and taking care of our homes and doing our jobs and doing all the things that we have to do in the midst of our practice. And so as Nhat would say, our life is our practice. And so I'm going to read some things that he's written about food and practice. First of all, so this is from Pieces Every Step, of kind of first basic book. This is tangerine meditation. I offer you a freshly picked tangerine to enjoy. I think the degree to which you enjoy it will depend upon your mindfulness. If you are free of worries and anxiety, you will enjoy it more. If you are possessed by anger or fear, the tangerine may not be very real to you. One day I offered a number of children a basket filled with tangerines. The basket was passed around and each child took one tangerine and put it in his or her palm. We each looked at our tangerine and the children were invited to meditate on its origins. They saw not only their tangerine, but also its mother, the tangerine tree. With some guidance, they began to visualize the blossoms in the sun and in the rain. Then they saw the petals falling down and the teeny green fruit appear. The sunshine and the rain continued and the teeny tangerine grew. Now someone has picked it and the tangerine is here. After seeing this, each child was invited to peel the tangerine slowly, noticing the mist and the fragrance of the tangerine, and then bring it up to his or her mouth and have a mindful bite in full awareness of the texture and the taste of the fruit and the juice coming out. We ate slowly like that. Each time you look at a tangerine, you can see deeply into it. You can see everything in the universe in one tangerine. When you peel it and smell it, it's wonderful. You can take your time eating a tangerine and be very happy. And that reminds me so much of what Marianne said the other day in her talk, where she said she looked at her breakfast and saw the world in a bowl of oatmeal. It's the same. And Norman Fisher's One Heart Grace also expresses this so well. As we make ready to eat this food, we remember with gratitude the many people, tools, animals and plants, air and water, sky and earth, turned in the wheel of living and dying, whose joyful exertion provides our sustenance this day. May we, with the blessing of this food, join our hearts to the one heart of the world in awareness and love. And may we, together with everyone, realize the path of awakening and never stop making an effort for the benefit of others. So another bit that from here we go. On from tangerine meditation to eating mindfully. A few years ago, I asked, here we go. Eating a meal in mindfulness is an important practice. We turn off the TV, put down the newspaper, and work together for 5 or 10 minutes, setting the table, finishing our whatever needs to be done. During these minutes, we can be very happy. When the food is on the table and everyone is seated, we practice breathing. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I smile. 3 times. We can recover ourselves completely after breaths like this. Let's try it. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I smile. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I smile. Then we look at each person as we breathe in and out in order to be in touch with ourselves and everyone at the table. We don't need 2 hours to see another person. If we're really settled within ourselves, we only need to look for 1 or 2 seconds. That is enough to see. After breathing, we smile. Sitting at the table with other people, we have a chance to offer an authentic smile of friendship and understanding. It is very easy, but not many people do it. To me, this is the most important practice. We look at each other and smile at him or her. Breathing and smiling together is a very important practice. If people in a household cannot smile at each other, the situation is very dangerous. After breathing and smiling, we look down at the food in a way that allows the food to become real. This food reveals our connection with the earth. Each bite contains the life of the sun and the earth. The extent to which our food reveals itself depends on us. We can see and taste the whole universe in a piece of bread. Contemplating our food for just a few seconds before eating and eating in mindfulness brings us much happiness. Having the opportunity to sit with our family and friends and enjoy wonderful food is something precious, something not everyone has. Many people in the world are hungry. When I hold a bowl of rice or a piece of bread, I know that I am fortunate and I feel compassionate for those who have no food to eat or without family or friends. This is a very deep practice. We do not need to go to a temple or church in order to practice like this. We can practice it right at our dinner table. Mindful eating can cultivate seeds of compassion and understanding that will strengthen us to do something to help hungry and lonely people be nourished. Yeah. Abiding in this ephemeral world like a lotus in muddy water, the mind is pure and goes beyond. And Nhat would say, no mud, no lotus. I'm going to read just a bit about walking meditation, because really that is the kind of his cornerstone, slow mindful walking. He's written books and books about it. And personally, I attended a retreat with him, and we were walking around. There was a big wide, it's in upstate New York, there's a big wide deck out from the side of the building. It was all around. And there were maybe 4 or 5, we were 4 or 5 across, and then people going back and walking with a very slow breathing, counting the breath, counting the steps of the breath, noticing the inhale and the outhale and exhalation. And then all of a sudden it felt like we were a huge freight train coming into the station, like that there was so much power in the concentration, in the mindfulness, in the concentration, but it was held in so gently, like just this massive energy that was just slowly coming in to the station. Nowhere to go. I have arrived. It's just pretty incredible. So he says, When an art, this, this is from a really old one. This is a really old one. When an artist draws a picture or sculpts a statue of the Buddha sitting on a lotus, it is not only because he wants to honor him. The artist wants to show that the Buddha is sitting in peace and awareness. Each of us sits down many times every day, but few of us can sit peacefully like a Buddha. For many of us, when we sit down, it is as if we had sat on a hotbed of smoldering coals. As soon as we are seated, then we think of something and we're pop up again. Although the Buddha may be portrayed sitting on a block of stone, he is serene as if sitting on a lotus. When I first became a monk, I was taught that before sitting, I should invoke this thought. As I sit down, I wish that all living beings may be seated on the throne of perfect enlightenment, their minds free from illusion and from all mistaken views. After invoking this thought, we were to sit down mindfully. This is learning how to sit like a Buddha. I want to remind those who wish to enter the Pure Land. Now, I guess that maybe isn't a desire of all of ours, having not grown up in that kind of culture that when you die, you're going to be reborn in a Pure Land if you do enough good deeds. But in any case, he says, I want to remind those who wish to enter the Pure Land, please sit on a lotus right now. Do not wait until you arrive in the Pure Land. Please be reborn in a lotus at this very moment. By being reborn in a lotus flower and sitting on a lotus seat at this very moment, you no longer need to doubt the Pure Land's existence. The same is true with walking. The newborn Buddha was commonly shown taking 7 steps. With each step, a lotus flower blossoms from the imprint in the earth. We should be able to take steps that are so peaceful that a lotus flower can blossom beneath each step. Next time you practice like this, let a lotus flower bloom under each footstep, just like a newborn Buddha. You don't need to feel inferior or inadequate to the task. If your step is sincere, it is worthy of having a lotus blossom from it. You too are a Buddha, like everyone else. It was the Buddha who said that. He said that every living being has the potential to awaken. To practice walking meditation is to practice living in mindfulness. Mindfulness and enlightenment are one. We're doing okay. And I have one more, and then Chelsea maybe wants to say some words. And this is called Autumn Leaf, and it was also personal to me, so I'm saying it. One day, as I was about to step on a dry leaf, I stopped. Looking closely, I saw that the leaf was not really dead. It was merging with the moist soil and preparing to appear on the tree the following spring in another form. I smiled at the leaf and said, "You are just pretending." Everything is pretending to be born and pretending to die, including the leaf I almost stepped on. The Buddha said, when conditions are sufficient, the body reveals itself, and we say the body is. When conditions are not sufficient, the body cannot be perceived by us, and we say that the body is not. The day of our so-called death is a day of our continuation in many other forms. Touching this truth is a deep practice and brings us relief from our deepest fears. Nirvana means extinction, the extinction of all notions and concepts. including the concepts of birth, death, being, non-being, coming and going. Nirvana is the ultimate dimension of life, a state of coolness, peace, and joy. It is not a state to be attained after death. You can touch nirvana right now by breathing, walking, and drinking your tea in mindfulness. Chelsea, take it away.
Oh, goodness. Oh, Erika. Oh, it's so beautiful to be able to share tears and joy and grief and memories. Thank you, Erika, for bringing yours forward. Whew. As you were speaking, I was remembering so many more things, right? So many more beautiful moments that were brought into my life and my experience because of Thich and his teaching. And one of those is walking with the children at Green Gulch Farm and singing on this beautiful path. I walk in peace. Every step I take, a flower blooms, right? And I was remembering being in Plum Village with my daughter in the kitchen, as you're talking about, right? The instructions to the chef, and chopping broccoli. And I learned when a sister came up behind me and pulled the broccoli stem out of the compost by my cutting station, that can go into the soup too. And I just kept getting a sense as you were speaking, Erika, about Thach's teachings are for us. They're for us to live our lives by. And he does that so beautifully for us. The phrase you just gave us, maybe you have to remind me, Tao Ken, right? K-E-N, Tao Ken in our lives.
Tao Ren, the
Tao Ren, yeah.
Tao Ren, yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, right, in our lives.
Yeah.
I wrote a few things, and I'm just going to look at my notes here. I was reflecting last night how I couldn't possibly begin to name all the ways that Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings have supported me and my family through our lives. From the genius of how beautifully he conveys a teaching like the Heart Sutra in a simple calligraphy that says a cloud doesn't die, right? To the action and urgency that awakens in me when I hear him say things like, we need to listen to the cries of the earth, the deep climate justice that comes forward in his teachings on earth as a great bodhisattva. His framing of our vows as engaged practice, that it's not enough to stay in the Dharma hall when there's bombs falling, that we need to act, we need to get up and take our practice into the world. And his teaching that one Buddha is not enough, that maybe the next Buddha will be the whole Sangha, right? It's us, it's all of us coming forward together. What really is life for me this week is the joy of practice, that it feels so unique to Thach's teaching, right? That he tells us we should enjoy our practice. And this feels so different than what we get, right? So different than Bodhidharma in the cave for 7 years. We can enjoy our practice. That's something we can do. To remember to smile to one another, to smile to our body, to smile to our anger, to take good care of one another. And I keep having a picture in my mind of being, I think this was in France at Plum Village, doing walking meditation with Thich, and the children running to get to the front to hold his hands. And just the way that that children were always welcomed, and that Thich himself had a playfulness, a childlike quality to him that would shine through just as easily as the scholar, right? Just as easily as his diligent practice. And a particular memory that is coming forward for me is Thich giving his teaching on A Cloud Never Dies to a hall of maybe, I don't know, a few hundred people, and all of the children gathered near his feet, right at the feet of the teacher, as he shares about how he's looking into his tea, and that there's the cloud is in Thai's tea, he would say. And when we were there for that time, when my daughter sat there at his feet to hear that teaching, it was shortly after my newborn son had passed away, her brother. And I felt so relieved and so just blessed, so lucky, so fortunate to have the opportunity for my child to receive that teaching in the wake of her brother's death. And I feel that now, so lucky that I have been able to receive that teaching, that's here now this week of his passing. So Thich would say to smile to the cloud in your tea. And today, I think that's my hope for us, for all of us, that we can remember in the coming days and weeks and months to embody, to smile to our practice, to delight in the days. Thich taught us that just to be alive is a miracle, to see the blue sky is a miracle, to see the wonder in a child's eyes is a miracle, to come back to our body and our breath, to our steps, and to remember that that's Thai's continuation, our beautiful steps, our joyful practice, that he's walking and breathing right beside us. I think I'll stop there.
Thank you, Chelsea. You speak so beautifully. You speak so beautifully and so spontaneously. It's really a pleasure. And it reminded me that I also wanted to say that kind of the first thing that came to me when I heard that he had passed was, well, and it's crazy too, because he's been in, he had a huge stroke 8 years ago, 2014, hasn't been walking or talking for 8 years. And has been in Vietnam for 4 years. I haven't seen him in 20. And it's like I've lost my best friend. It's beyond time and space. And so then, what can we say, but how are we going to carry on his practice? And that is by anyone who's met him or heard his teaching or read his books. It's carrying it forward manifesting it in our lives, being the brightest light we can be. And that's it pretty much. Yeah. Thank you.